much, and thanks to all the three speakers who have been very cooperative in sticking to the time, which allows more discussion and comment from you. And I think, Marielena's just last point there is a good thing to think about, partnerships, and maybe we start thinking about the how. So as you bring your questions forward, do bring that forward if it's of interest to you. So show of hands if, do we have any questions? No? It's so stunning. You know. Nobody has a question. Well, I have a question. I have a question to Vince, and that is about how are you regulated? You are a portfolio manager for migrants investments, and you mentioned the need for protection. But you yourselves, how are you? Are you subject to any regulation yourselves as obviously an investment house?
Yeah. In terms of regulation, we comply with the requirements of agencies in the Philippines, such as, say, providing reports to the Bureau of Internal Revenue for our taxes, the Securities and Exchange Commission. But what we intend to do actually is to make our documents public and make our financial statements available online so that people can see it. There's no specific body that directly regulates us, whether like say a ratings agency that says that our portfolio is this good or this bad. But what we try to do is to tell point blank what the financial performance is. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a question there, please, sir. If you would just.
My name is Vincent Gambra from Afro Euro Foundation. I'd like to ask Vincent a question. How do you manage the administrative cost of your organization and the interest rate or the interest rate for migrants? I want to know, and then also the interest rate that the business people or the business people in Philippines, how much interest do they pay on the loans that you give it to them? You have to know.
Okay. Well, in microfinance, there is such an equation that we call the sustainable interest rate and how to compute for it. And we administrative expenses low, and that is actually one of our core competencies. And what we normally do is to keep the salaries of our staff low, but at the end of the year, if we have a huge income, we distribute it among the employees. So in that way, we are able to keep the administrative expenses down. We also do not go to expensive offices and have our own cars and those things. We keep our. I think if you're a development worker, you also have to watch out for what you're spending, because ultimately what you are going to spend, you will have to pass it on to your clients, and your clients are the poor, and they will suffer if you charge them higher interest rates. But what we do is we provide wholesale funds for microfinance institutions and larger micro-enterprises. We classify them as actually the missing middle before they even grow to small and medium enterprises. And our pass-on rate is about 13% right now. So that's how we manage. It's really keeping our administrative expenses simple, standardized systems, and making every single person productive inside the organization. What we also do is, as I mentioned, we have just established our financing arm, and that financing arm shares the back support office of our consulting arm, because it's the financing arm is not that large yet to have its own back support office. So we really managed to keep our expenses low. But it's more challenging to cover the expenses of the financial literacy training here, especially when we come here to Europe. I've been here twice already to deliver financial literacy trainings, and so far I've only been successful to cover 50% of the cost. But we are also able to recover the cost of that by the investments that come to us, because there's a spread that we earn from the investments that we mobilize from the migrants. So that's how we do it.
I have a question to Marjolein, and it refers to the investment or the situation of education in Morocco, where I read recently quite bad reports about both the attendance and the quality of education, which surprised me a bit, given that Morocco, as a North African country, not the least developed country in Africa, and given all this money going back since many years already by Americans abroad, I was a bit surprised to hear about that. So, what's the explanation of that, and how is the program of the Moroccan Fund addressing this, or is that a priority? Or,
yeah, it's true. Actually, Morocco worst when you take the Millennium Development Goal 2, and especially for girls actually. Girls are suffering a lot by not sending to school by their parents, and the reason for this is because there have been a lot of, the government has been very neglecting, and only since, you can say, the end of the 90s, when the new king came to power, actually, the actual Mohammed VI, actually established a program, a national development program, which is conforming to the MDGs, where a lot of international donors work hard for in Morocco. And till now, actually, the results, we already know that by 2015, the MDG 2 will not be achieved. For the remittances sent to Morocco and the investment in education, we know from research studies made by Hein de Haas, which is a known researcher specialized in Morocco, that the investments made by migrants with their money is not actually invested in education, but much more in household goods and houses, construction of houses. So what our foundation do is we do a lot of awareness raising about the education problem in Morocco among the young Moroccan peoples in the Netherlands. We give information about the Millennium Goals, and we also invest in development projects on education matters in Morocco. Of course, that's on a small scale basis, but we also influence governmental bodies. We work together with them already. We are quite, how to say, we are quite prudent to work with Moroccan government, because we really want to stay independent. But it's true that by 2015 it won't be achieved, and what we do is supporting projects in Morocco and do awareness raising and try to get more Moroccans in the Netherlands involved to invest in education. And we see it, by the way, from smaller NGOs in the Netherlands working in Morocco, that their main focus is actually education, because they see in their hometown village that the girls are not going to school, and the reason is actually it's not actually that there are not sufficient schools. It's actually there where those girls are living in remote rural villages. There is a school, but not secondary school. So actually their school level stops at the age of 12. And afterwards, girls are not sent to school because it's too far. Because secondary school actually are too far from their home. So parents won't send them to school because they're not safe that their young little girl is coming home, etc. So it remains a big problem actually in Morocco.
Oscar?